Whispers in the static introduction to Dr. Ramona Levesque, a radio astronomer at an isolated mountain observatory who discovers an unusual signal during a solar storm. Patterns in the noise as the signal strengthens. Ramona works with her colleague Dr. Javier Okafor to decode it, revealing a mysterious figure and sparking government interest. The face between worlds, Ramona establishes a connection with the entity Tomas Reyes, revealing his trapped existence in a dimensional rift caused by a classified experiment. Breach protocol, Ramona and Javier risk everything to help Tomas, as his connection destabilizes, drawing unwanted attention from military intelligence officer Colonel Diana Everett. Convergence point, the rescue operation reaches its climax as dimensional barriers begin to collapse, forcing a choice that will change everyone involved forever. Part 1. Whispers in the Static. Atacama Astronomical Observatory sat like a cluster of alien eggs against the rust-colored mountains. Dr. Ramona Levesque pulled her jacket tighter as she climbed the steps to the main dish control room. The frigid night air of the Chilean highlands bit through her layers despite the summer season. Another exciting Friday night with the stars, Doctor? Teased Paolo, the night security guard. Better company than most people, Ramona replied with a tired smile. 3 years at this remote outpost had earned her a reputation for being brilliant but withdrawn. Her colleagues respected her work mapping gravitational anomalies in deep space, but few understood her preference for solitude. After the public failure of her marriage to tech billionaire Garrett Frost, who'd ridiculed her obsession with empty space during their divorce proceedings, Ramona had retreated into her work completely. Inside the control room, banks of monitors glowed blue in the darkness. She settled into her chair, the worn leather conforming to her shape, a small comfort in the sterile environment. Her current project involved scanning a sector near the Cygnus constellation where gravitational readings suggested something unusual. "Let's see what secrets you're hiding tonight," she murmured, adjusting the radio telescope's frequency. The standard procedure was interrupted when a solar flare alert flashed across her screen. She sighed, preparing to recalibrate for the interference, when a strange pattern emerged in the background noise. Most astronomers would have dismissed it as cosmic static, but Ramona had spent years training her ears to distinguish meaningful patterns from random noise. This wasn't random. She isolated the frequency and enhanced it, the waveform transforming into a steady, pulsing rhythm. Too regular for a natural phenomenon, yet unlike any human transmission protocol she recognized. "Paolo, is anyone else scheduled for the main dish tonight?" she called over the intercom. "Negative, Doctor. Just you until morning shift." Ramona's heart quickened. She ran diagnostics to check for equipment malfunction. Everything functioned perfectly. The signal was real and it was getting stronger. She routed the data to her private server and began recording. The pattern now showed mathematical properties, prime numbers in sequence, followed by what appeared to be a simple binary code. This was the holy grail of radio astronomy, a potentially non-random, non-terrestrial signal. Hours passed as she worked feverishly, applying different decoding algorithms. Near dawn, exhausted but unwilling to stop, she tried converting the signal into an image format. The monitor flickered, and slowly, pixel by pixel, a blurry shape formed. Ramona gasped, nearly knocking over her coffee. It was indistinct, but unmistakable, the outline of what appeared to be a human face. "Impossible," she whispered, fingers trembling over the keyboard. The image dissolved into static, then reformed slightly clearer. A masculine face with distinctive features, high cheekbones, deep-set eyes that seemed to stare directly at her. Not a photograph or recording, but a living, responsive visage. As sunlight crept over the mountains, Ramona made 2 decisions. First, she would tell no one until she confirmed this wasn't an elaborate hoax. Second, she would respond. She calibrated the dish to transmit on the same frequency and sent a simple mathematical sequence, her own cosmic hello. Within minutes, a face reappeared, and the figure's lips moved as though speaking. No sound came through, but Ramona felt a chill run down her spine. Whoever this was, they were trying to communicate, and they were watching her too. The face between worlds, the small apartment in Antofagasta, became their new base of operations. After being formally removed from the observatory project, Ramona and Javier had retreated to the coastal Chilean city with their smuggled data and a portable satellite uplink constructed from modified consumer electronics. If they track the signal, we'll have about 20 minutes before they can mobilize locally, Javier said, adjusting the makeshift dish on the balcony. 3 weeks had passed since their confrontation with Agent Walsh, and they'd spent every moment preparing to re-establish contact. Then we make those 20 minutes count, Ramona replied, her determination unwavering. When the connection finally stabilized, Tomas Reyes appeared almost immediately, as if he'd been waiting. His face showed visible relief. "You came back," he said, his voice now clearer through their improved decryption algorithm. "They tried to block my signal, but I've been adjusting the quantum frequency. We don't have much time." Over the next hour, they learned the truth. Tomas had been a quantum physicist working on Project Threshold, a military initiative to create instantaneous transport technology. During the final test, something went catastrophically wrong. The dimensional boundaries folded incorrectly, he explained. Instead of moving through space, I became trapped in a pocket between dimensions. I can observe your world, even move alongside it in a limited way, but I exist out of phase with normal spacetime. "How have you survived 15 years?" Ramona asked. "From my perspective, it's been approximately 14 months. Time moves differently here. The capsule was designed for a 6-month mission with recycling systems, but they're failing now." His image flickered alarmingly. "The quantum tether connecting me to normal space is degrading when it fails completely. ... He didn't need to finish the thought. Over the following days, they established a more regular connection. Tomas guided them through the complex physics of his situation, while they provided him with human connection he'd been denied for so long. Despite the bizarre circumstances, Ramona found herself drawn to his brilliant mind and resilient spirit. "In another life, we might have been colleagues," she told him during one transmission. "My doctoral thesis was on quantum entanglement and stellar formation." "I read it," he replied, surprising her. "Before my mission, your models were elegant. Of their time." Between technical discussions, they shared more personal details. Tomas spoke of his Dominican heritage, his family in New York who must believe him long dead. Ramona confided about her failed marriage and subsequent retreat from human connection. "Ironic," she said with a sad smile. "I had to find someone trapped between dimensions to have a meaningful conversation." "Perhaps we're both trapped in our own ways," he answered thoughtfully. Their breakthrough came unexpectedly. While analyzing the quantum signature of Tomas's pocket dimension, Javier noticed something crucial. The dimensional barriers thin during specific gravitational alignments, he explained excitedly. "That's why the signal strengthens periodically. And there's a major alignment coming in. 6 days, a syzygy, between Earth, the Moon, and your pocket dimension." "Could we use this to bring him back?" Ramona asked, hope rising for the first time. "Theoretically, yes. But we'd need significant power and specialized equipment. And the military almost certainly knows about this alignment too." As if confirming their fears, they detected unusual activity around the observatory. Surveillance vehicles. Increased security. They were preparing for something during their next transmission. Tomas's image was sharper than ever, but his expression was grave. "They're attempting their own extraction," he said. "I can see their preparations from here, but their calculations are wrong. They're treating this as a simple physical extraction. The dimensional physics is more complex." "What happens if they proceed?" Javier asked. "Best case, it fails. Worst case," Tomas's face hardened. "They could tear open the dimensional boundary unpredictably. The results would be catastrophic." "Just for me," Ramona made her decision then. "We're going to get you out ourselves. The right way." "That's impossible," Tomas argued. "You'd need resources, equipment." "What we need," Ramona interrupted, her mind racing ahead, "is someone who owns a private aerospace company with quantum computing resources." She gave a grim smile. "And unfortunately, I know just the person." Convergence point the explosion threw Ramona against the control room wall. Emergency sirens wailed as the facility's automatic fire suppression engaged, filling the air with chemical foam. Through the observation window, she could see the extraction. Chamber and ruins equipment destroyed, the quantum bridge collapsed. "Tomas," she screamed, struggling to her feet. Javier grabbed her arm. "You can't go in there." The dimensional instability, she broke free. Staggering toward the chamber entrance where Garrett and Colonel Everett were already organizing emergency teams, the heavy door had been blown off its hinges and dangerous. Arcs of quantum energy still crackled across the debris. Life signs detected inside. One of Frost's technicians reported. "Faint but present. Get a medical team in there now," Garrett ordered. Colonel Everett countermanded immediately. "No one enters until we've assessed the dimensional contamination risk. We don't know what came through." "A man came through, Ramona," said her voice rising. "A human being who's been trapped for 15 years? While they argued, Ramona noticed something impossible. The quantum energy wasn't dissipating. Instead, it was coalescing, forming a translucent barrier around the chamber's center. Through it, she could make out a human figure lying motionless. Amid the wreckage, understanding hit her with sudden clarity. The extractions, incomplete, still partially phase-shifted. She grabbed a portable quantum scanner from a nearby workstation and pushed past the guards before anyone could stop her. The air inside the chamber felt wrong thicker somehow, with colors that seemed slightly offset from reality. Each step was like moving through invisible resistance. In the center lay Tomas Reyes, no longer just a face on a screen, but a physical man. His experimental suit was charred and torn, but she could see his chest rising and falling with shallow breaths. Around him, reality rippled like water. The scanner confirmed her theory. He's oscillating between dimensional states. The quantum tether didn't fully disconnect. Colonel Everett had followed her in, sidearm drawn. "Stand back, Doctor. We don't know what effect this dimensional contamination might have." "There's no contamination," Ramona insisted, studying the readings. "But his molecular cohesion is failing. He can't maintain physical form in our dimension without stabilization." Javier joined them, bringing additional equipment. "The quantum bridge collapsed too early. We need to reestablish it long enough for him to fully transition." "The main equipment is destroyed," Garrett said, gesturing at the ruined machinery. Ramona's mind raced. "We don't need to rebuild the bridge. We just need to stabilize the transition that's already in progress." She turned to Garrett. "Your portable quantum computer, the one you developed for the Mars mission. It can generate a localized field." As they worked feverishly to assemble a makeshift stabilizer, Tomas's condition deteriorated. His body flickered between solidity and translucence, each shift accompanied by spasms of pain. When his eyes opened, they found Ramona immediately. Recognition and wonder crossed his face. "God, you're real," he whispered, his voice distorted by dimensional fluctuation. "All this time, I wasn't sure." "Save your strength," she told him, connecting the final components of their improvised device. "We're going to fix this." Colonel Everett watched with growing concern. "The dimensional instability is spreading. If we can't contain this, I'll have no choice but to implement containment protocols." "Meaning what exactly?" Garrett demanded. "Meaning, this facility will be sterilized from orbit if necessary," she replied grimly. "The risk of dimensional contamination spreading is too great." The stabilizer hummed to life, creating a shimmering field around Tomas. For a moment, his form seemed to solidify, then destabilized even more violently. "It's not working," Javier said, checking the readings. "The oscillation is accelerating. We need something stronger to anchor him to our dimension." Ramona studied the quantum signatures, understanding dawning. The problem isn't power, it's that he has nothing to anchor to. Quantum entanglement requires a paired system. Without hesitation, she stepped inside the field despite the others. Shouts of warning. The sensation was indescribably, like every atom in her body was both freezing and burning simultaneously. "What are you doing?" Tomas gasped, reaching toward her with a hand that phased in and out of existence. "Creating an anchor," she replied through gritted teeth. "Our original communications, they created a quantum resonance between us." "Yes. Why, I could receive your signal," when no one else could. She took his partially substantial hand in hers. The point where they touched glowed with strange light. Javier, recalibrate the field to use our resonance pattern. As Javier made the adjustments, Ramona felt something impossible emerging of perceptions. For a brief moment, she experienced Tomas's 15 years of isolation, saw through his eyes as he drifted in the space between dimensions, felt his despair and his hope when he finally made contact. Simultaneously, he experienced her loneliness, her retreat into work after her divorce, and the fierce determination that had driven her to find him. The quantum field pulsed once, twice, then stabilized into a perfect crystalline sphere around them. Inside, Tomas's form solidified completely. The dimensional fluctuations ceased. "It's working," Javier called out. Molecular cohesion stabilizing at 87%, 92%, 97%. When the field finally collapsed, Ramona and Tomas remained at its center, both fully present in the same dimension. For the first time, medical teams rushed forward as Tomas collapsed into Ramona's arms, weakened but stable. "Welcome back," she whispered. The aftermath unfolded over days. Colonel Everett's team established a quarantine, but it quickly became apparent that Tomas carried no dimensional contamination. His physical condition, while weakened, was remarkably good for someone who had experienced such an ordeal. The military debriefings were extensive, yet ultimately inconclusive. Too much time had passed, too many records had been destroyed after the original accident. Tomas Reyes was classified as a recovered experimental subject and eventually released under monitoring protocols. Garrett Frost, never one to miss an opportunity, had already patented 17 different technologies developed during the rescue operation. He told Ramona during their final meeting, "I always said your obsession with the stars would lead nowhere. I've never been happier to be proven wrong." 3 months later, at a small house overlooking the Pacific Ocean, Ramona sat with Tomas on the porch. His recovery had been remarkable, though occasional nightmares and momentary phase shifts reminded them of what he'd endured. "The military wants me to consult on a new project," he said, watching the sunset. "Something about controlled dimensional apertures. I told them I'd think about it, and will you?" she asked. He turned to her, his expression thoughtful. 15 years trapped between worlds gave me a unique perspective. There are wonders out there that we've barely glimpsed, but there are dangers too. So what will you do?" "I think," he said, taking her hand, "that I'd rather focus on this dimension for a while. This reality, this moment." As the stars began to appear above them, Ramona thought about the improbable journey that had brought them together across dimensional barriers and quantum impossibilities. In a universe of infinite possibilities, they had somehow found each other through the static. Some connections, it seemed, transcended even the boundaries of reality itself. Breach Protocol. Garrett Frost's Atacama Research Facility gleamed like a futuristic oasis in the desert landscape. As their rented Jeep approached the security gate, Ramona felt her stomach twist with both anxiety and determination. "Are you sure about this?" Javier asked. "From what you've told me about your ex-husband, Garrett is arrogant, ambitious, and self-important," Ramona conceded. "But he's not stupid. When he sees the data, he'll understand what's at stake." The security guards recognized her immediately. Industry's controversial former First Lady, after a brief call to the main building. They were escorted inside. Garrett Frost hadn't changed much in 3 years, still impeccably dressed, still radiating that particular confidence of a man who'd never truly failed at anything important. His office overlooked the testing grounds where prototype rockets stood like silver needles against the sky. "Ramona," he said, "neither warm nor cold. Your message mentioned a quantum physics emergency." "That's quite the conversation starter after." 3 years of silence. It connected her drive to his system without preamble. "We've made contact with a man trapped in a dimensional anomaly created by a military experiment 15 years ago. They're planning an extraction that could have catastrophic consequences." To his credit, Garrett didn't dismiss her outright. He reviewed the data methodically, asking precise questions that reminded Ramona why she'd been attracted to him initially beneath. The ego was a genuinely brilliant mind. This is either the most elaborate hoax I've ever seen, he said finally, or the most significant quantum physics discovery in human history. It's real, Garrett. And we have less than 4 days before the military attempts their extraction. Exactly are you proposing? Javier unfolded their hastily created plans. We need to establish a stable quantum bridge during the gravitational alignment. With the right equipment, we can create a corridor for physical reintegration into our dimension. You're talking about technology that doesn't exist? Garrett objected. But the components do, Ramona countered. Your quantum computing array, modified high-energy lasers, and the gravitational sensors from your Mars mission prototypes. We can assemble what we need. Garrett studied her with newfound interest. You're risking everything for this man you've never actually met. Question caught her off guard. Because he deserves a chance. Because the science matters. Because it's the right thing to do. After a long moment, Garrett nodded. My resources are at your disposal, but I'm overseeing the operation myself. If we're making quantum physics history, I want my name on it. The next 72 hours became a blur of frantic preparation. Frost's team worked around the clock, converting a hangar into an improvised quantum laboratory. Ramona established a more permanent connection with Tomas, who provided crucial insights into the dimensional mechanics of his situation. The military's attempting to brute force the barrier, he warned during one transmission. They've detected your activities and are accelerating their timeline. Their fears were confirmed when Colonel Diana Everett arrived at the facility, flanked by armed personnel. Dr. Levesque, Mr. Frost, she addressed them coolly. You're interfering with a classified military operation. I have authorization to seize your equipment and detain everyone involved. Garrett stepped forward with the easy confidence of someone accustomed to power struggles. Colonel, my company has contracts with 3 different branches of the armed forces worth billions. Before you make threats, I suggest you speak with General Hammond about the potential consequences. The standoff ended in an uneasy compromise. They would work together, pooling resources for a single extraction attempt. We follow the correct quantum protocols, Ramona insisted. No shortcuts. Colonel Everett reluctantly agreed, though her suspicious gaze never left Ramona. You seem extraordinarily committed to rescuing a man you've never met, Doctor. I'm committed to the science, Ramona replied evenly, and to not creating a dimensional catastrophe. As the alignment approached, tensions escalated. The military. Technicians worked alongside Frost's team, but conflicting approaches created dangerous friction. The extraction point, a reinforced chamber at the center of a ring of quantum. Generators hummed with increasing energy, 20-4 hours before the alignment. Tomas's transmission became crystal clear, a sign the dimensional barriers were already thinning. Something's wrong, he said immediately. The pocket is destabilizing faster than predicted. The military's preliminary attempts have accelerated the degradation. Scans confirmed his assessment. The dimensional pocket was collapsing. We need to move now, Colonel Everett demanded. Before we lose him completely. It's too soon, Ramona protested. The quantum bridge isn't stable enough. That's a risk we have to take, as they argued. Alarms blared across the facility. The dimensional boundary was fluctuating wildly, creating gravitational distortions that shook the building and the transmission. Tomas's image wavered as equipment behind him sparked and failed. His voice came through, broken but urgent. Can't wait. Breaking apart. Have to now or never. The decision was made for them as the quantum readings spiked catastrophically. Ramona rushed to the controls, adjusting parameters frantically as Javier and Garrett stabilized the power flow. Initiating quantum bridge, she called out, Tomas, can you hear me? We're bringing you through now. Follow the energy signature. The screen they watched as Tomas strapped himself into what appeared to be an experimental suit. His face, now so familiar to Ramona, showed both fear and determination. If this doesn't work, he said, his voice suddenly steady, I want you to know these past weeks have meant everything to me. Someone knowing I existed. It saved me long before this attempt. The quantum bridge engaged with a blinding flash of blue-white light. The extraction chamber filled with swirling energy as reality itself seemed to bend and stretch. The reinforced window. Ramona watched as something began to take form at the center of the vortex. Then everything went catastrophically wrong. Patterns in the noise DR? Ramona Levesque hadn't slept in 36 hours. The observation room had become her sanctuary and prison, littered with empty coffee cups and hastily scribbled equations. The mysterious transmission continued intermittently strongest. During the night hours, when the Chilean sky was clearest, "You're going to burn yourself out," said Dr. Javier Okafor, leaning against the doorframe. As the observatory's senior astrophysicist, Javier was one of the few people Ramona genuinely respected. "Paolo mentioned you haven't left this room since." Friday, Ramona hesitated, then gestured him inside. "I need your eyes on something, but this stays between us." Javier's expression grew serious as she played back the recorded transmission. The face had become clearer with each iteration. A man in his late 30s with dark, intelligent eyes and a scar across his right temple. The background showed glimpses of what appeared to be an enclosed space with instrumentation. "This has to be a hoax," Javier said, though his voice lacked conviction. "Maybe someone hacked our system. I've checked everything. The signal's coming from a fixed point in space, approximately 400,000 kilometers from Earth. Nothing should be there according to any public database." Javier studied the waveform analysis. These patterns, they're not just mathematical sequences. They're quantum encryption algorithms, advanced ones. Over the next week, they worked together, taking alternating shifts. Ramona had programmed simple responses, mathematical proofs, and basic imagery from Earth. The entity responded with increasingly complex communications. "I think he's trying to teach us his language," Javier said, analyzing the patterns. "See how these symbols repeat with variations? It's like he's building vocabulary." On the 8th night, they achieved a breakthrough. Using a quantum computing algorithm borrowed from Javier's previous research, they managed to decode part of the transmission into recognizable speech patterns. The voice was distorted but unmistakably human. Tomás Reyes, Quantum Displacement Project. Day 5479 in relative time. "I don't know if anyone is receiving this. The dimensional anchor is deteriorating. Please respond if the transmission cut out," but the face remained, watching them with an expression of desperate hope. "Quantum Displacement Project?" Ramona whispered. "That doesn't sound like any NASA or ESA initiative I've ever heard of." Javier's face had gone pale, because it wasn't theirs. It was a classified military research program from 15 years ago. There was an accident, a catastrophic one. The entire project was buried. "How do you know this?" "I had a colleague who worked on the theoretical models. She never spoke about it directly, but after she died, I found notes. ... Double quotes. He hesitated. "Ramona, if this is connected to that project, we're dealing with something beyond dangerous. They were experimenting with dimensional phasing, creating shortcuts through space-time." The next transmission came through stronger than before. The face Tomás Reyes now appeared almost solid. Behind him, they could see a cramped capsule with control panels displaying cascading data, locked in a temporal bubble. "From my perspective, only months have passed. The experiment created a dimensional pocket tie can observe your reality, but cannot physically interact. The quantum tether is failing. If it breaks completely, this pocket collapses." Javier and Ramona exchanged glances. "He's been trapped in some kind of dimensional anomaly for 15 years, she said, while experiencing only months from his perspective. As they formulated a response, the observatory director appeared in the doorway with two stern-faced men in suits. Dr. Levesque, Dr. Okafor. "These gentlemen are from the Department of Defense. They've detected unauthorized transmissions from our facility to a restricted area of space. I suggest you cooperate fully." The taller man stepped forward. "I'm Agent Bernard Walsh. You've made contact with a classified situation. Everything you've recorded becomes property of the United States government, effective immediately." "This man is alive," Ramona protested. "He needs help." "That's no longer your concern, Dr. Levesque. This matter involves national security." They were escorted from the room. Ramona managed to slip a data drive into her boot. The transmission and Tomás Reyes wouldn't disappear again, not while she had anything to say about it.